When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? Went to pick up my Xbox 360 a friend was borrowing, and our whole group of friends were there. They had spent the entire day playing games with snacks and pizza, and I had not been invited. And now I was in the situation of being the douche who takes the ball home and ruins the fun for everyone. I took my Xbox and never spoke to anyone in that group again. When I slowly realized I was only around for chores and errands, rides to the airport, pick up furniture, help move, anything social always resulted in either last minute cancellations, showing up 45 minutes late and bolting after 10 minutes. I thought they were busy, but no. I feel this. I only recently realized how much I give in my friendships, that is, offer to do things for people which doesn't bother me at all but still, and how absolutely bare minimum I get back. Back in my first year of college, I used to have a group of friends, like 7 dudes with me included. We always hang out together and we used to have this group chat where we discuss about anything from class subjects to random things. After a year, I noticed that one of the guys, let's just call him Randy, keeps getting excluded, not invited in form to group hangout while they're talking smack behind his back. And the unofficial leader of the group actually made a whole new group chat, inviting everyone, myself included, except Randy without his knowledge. I know what it feels to be left out. I experienced that in middle school and it's really awful. I stopped hanging out with them and I starts hanging out with Randy. He's quite eccentric but a very good person at heart. We've been friends for more than 6 years, and he's still got my back. Good for you to be his friend. Most people would have been too cowardly to go against the group. I'm proud of you. So many people see others being excluded, bullied and do nothing, mostly out of fear of being excluded themselves. They stopped inviting me to hang out. They would ask me to drive them to parties, but not invite me to go to the parties. They basically ghosted me for a while. They were once such amazing and important friends, but they gradually became really arrogant. It took a way longer than it should have to give up and find other people. When I was babysitting her kids, things were going great. We would hang out all the time, have movie nights and just talk and chill. But the second she no longer needed a babysitter was the second I got kicked to the curb. No explanation, not even a text back. Some people will act like your best friend until they no longer need you. They're lost though. When I was in school, all my friends and I did different A-levels. Despite us all having different lessons to each other, they would wait for each other to go to lunch together. But they would always forget me. Like I'd come out and they wouldn't be there, so I'd have lunch by myself. And then they'd come back and tell me they thought I was with them. I was the only one they didn't wait for. I've only seen one of them since we left school. She had forgotten my name, so that sucked. That happened to me. One time my friends all sat at a lunch table that was full and I was sat on one that was completely empty, and so I asked them to come sit by me and they said no. Those people suck. When I traded in my truck for a smaller, more eco-friendly vehicle, communication plummeted now that I can't haul furniture around, assist with moving as much, dispose of garbage, etc. Some people just use you for the stuff you have, and that is the worst type of people ever. When I went through a divorce and was down to $700, most difficult period, and weeded out all those who friended me for my generosity because I was well settled, started over and have like 2 true good friends. 2 real friends is better than 100 fake friends. Hope you're doing well. I was invited to the bachelorette party for one of the friends in this group. While at the party, I figured out that I was the only person not invited to the wedding. I had been invited to the party because they needed another person to chip in for expenses. I flew out to support a friend going through a messy divorce. While I was there, she left me in the apartment to meet up with her boyfriend that I didn't know about. He turned out to have just been released from prison for manslaughter. Once she told me that, I told her that I didn't want to spend time with him, especially considering the circumstances of my visit. The next night, I woke up in the middle of the night to find him in the living room. She said that she thought it wouldn't matter since I was asleep. The next day, she invited her soon-to-be ex-husband over without telling me and then asked me to meditate their conversation once he got there. That conversation turned ugly fast, and she ended up storming out. He broke down and asked if I thought it was salvageable, and I told him that she had already moved on. Maybe not the best idea on my part, but at that point, she had shown me how vile of a person she is. He broke down and asked if I thought it was salvageable, and I told him that she had already moved on. Maybe not the best idea on my part. No, it was the right idea. You were being a good friend to that guy. This was also when I realized who were my friends and who weren't. We were supposed to go to a tour and we save our money and pooled them. Fake friends told me they had to cancel the plan because ticket prices got too high. Told me to wait a few days to get my money back. Real friends asked me why I bailed on them and were worried that I had an emergency. Turns out my fake friends didn't want me to come and instead would use my money for their booze and told everyone else that I bailed out and took my money back so everyone else would give more for their booze allowance. That friendship ended and I also learned my fake friends were alcoholics and weren't strangers to fricking over people to get what they want. Today one of them is alive. Their alcoholism ruined their lives and some even died from it. One friend stopped replying to my texts right after we graduated from college. Like the same week we graduated. So, I was pretty much just a study buddy that they kept close to keep me helping them. This is basically all of the friends I made at various points in college. As soon as we don't see each other 3x a week, they fade away. I get they're busy but I didn't realize making lasting friendships as an adult would be so difficult. My friends from high school all unfollowed me when I graduated college. I'm the only one who no longer lives in our hometown. Consider that a badge of honor. The group made plans to meet and hang out. I was getting ready in the salon. A couple of friends had to back out for some reason. The other friend then made excuses of his own, and I could tell. I tried cajoling him and offer ways for him to go but he basically decided to cancel the entire group meetup. It was my birthday. Shortly realized after quitting C that a majority of my friends only kept me around so they could feel better about their own C habits. I was heavily addicted and setting myself down a path I never once thought I could or would take. Stopped for my own benefit and health, and was treated like a selfish piece of crap for doing so. The next months ensued and not one of them checked in to see how I was doing. But instead my high school best friend started sleeping with my ex-high school girlfriend. I was with her for 5 years and actually thought I was going to marry her at one point. Who dumped me for doing C and is now an honorary member of the group I was cast out of, replaced with the person who partially fueled my substance abuse. Who dumped me for substance abuse by the group that didn't like me stopping my substance abuse, so they could all abuse substances together. It's now been over a year since I quit, and honestly couldn't be happier. Got rid of a C addiction and about 1,000 pounds of dead weight, but it was an eye-opener to say the least. Man, I would have swore I wrote this if I knew I didn't. Quitting C makes your pockets heavier, your sinuses and mind clearer and your phone suddenly gets very light. I wouldn't say I have fake friends but I am definitely the periphery friend. The majority of the time if there isn't enough tickets or space in the car for everyone to go do something, I'm the one who gets cut out. It doesn't bother me much but I wish they would be more mindful when talking to me about things we have done. Remember when we went to see XXX? Wasn't that fun? Well, no, because I wasn't invited. In those situations it usually gets awkward or they say hey, we would have invited you if we had the tickets, space, etc. When I returned to work after being off for 3 months due to an injury and I practically begged them to go grab a beer and do pub trivia but all 3 of them passed because they had plans. Well, it turns out their plans were to go grab a beer and do pub trivia without me. Found out through social media. Deleted it shortly afterwards. I've been a lot less depressed about things since I've deleted social media and stopped looking at them as friends and just as work acquaintances. It took that for me to realize that the friendships were really one-sided and I'm better off not pursuing anything other than being cordial at work. This was quite a few years ago. My ex and I were really friendly with another couple. Did a ton of stuff together. Then they moved. Not far, and fairly shortly after my ex and I separated. They hung out with me for a few months but then stopped calling. A few years later, I ran into both of them at a race, an ultramarathon, and they both pretended like they didn't know me. That was actually a really painful moment. I just posted something similar. When I was married we were in a friend group with 3 other couples on our street. My ex cheated and we divorced. The group kept inviting both of us to the same events because they didn't want to pick sides. I moved out of the neighborhood and realized they were proximity friends, not real friends. That hurt a lot. This friend, I'll call her Mary, had kids the same age as mine. We got together for play dates pretty often and our kids would sleep over at each other's houses for weekends. I liked Mary. We would often visit and talk while our kids were playing. One weekend, her kids had stayed at my house. The older one called her mom to see when she was coming to pick her up. I was in the room, and the kid put the phone on speaker for some reason. Mary told the kid what time she would be there and added, "You had better be waiting outside. If I have to go in and spend the next hour talking to Robertum, I'm going to be really pee." We didn't spend much time together after that. I think this is especially crappy. Mom friends are hard enough to find, then to realize that they didn't even want to hang with you. And because your kiddos are friends you don't necessarily want to blow that up by calling the fake mom friend out. I tried to have mom friends, but it failed 3 times, and that was enough for me. Ooh off. This one hurt. When I was married we had a friend group of 3 couples from our street. We went to football games, trips to the beach and spent holidays at each other's homes. After the divorce I went traveling for a year then moved to a condo downtown in our city. I'd had lunch with the wives after returning from traveling. I thought we were still friends. I was sitting on my 2nd floor balcony of my new condo one night about 8 p.m. and saw them walking down the street. I said, "Hi, so good to see you." They'd all been out to dinner and were headed to another couple's apartment who had moved downtown while their house was being renovated for a quick drink. I was excited to see them and asked them to stop by on their way back to where they'd parked. I tidied up my place and anxiously awaited seeing my old pals. I was texting with one of the ladies during the wait. About 9 p.m. I saw them walking and chatting back towards my place. They couldn't see me. When they got close to my balcony they stopped talking and walked quickly and quietly by, then started laughing and talking after they passed. The one I'd been texted with while I waited sent me a text an hour later saying they were just now leaving the other friend's place and it was too late to stop by. I replied that I'd seen them when they left. I never spoke to any of them again even though they tried to be friends on Facebook. I wasn't hurt that they couldn't stop by on short notice. It was that they made me a joke and it really hurt. TLDR. Don't expect to stay friends with couples you were friends with when you were part of a couple. See? When you lose your worth to them. For instance, you are going through a dark period in your life, then they just leave like you are a worthless bag of dust. Feeling like this now with a breakup. Crap really hurts. I was at a party, really depressed after a bad breakup and got drunk. My abusive ex showed up, caught me somewhere alone and hit me. I begged several friends for help since I was too drunk to drive home alone and they ignored me. My ex-best friend was there, completely sober and refused to drive home with me because she didn't believe he would do that. There's no Uber or anything in my country BTW. The whole thing escalated. One guy I didn't know ended up finding me alone in a field crying and throwing up. Brought me back to the house. Built a bed out of blankets for me and sat guard all night to make sure my ex wouldn't do anything again. My so-called friends invited me to a party, and then at the last moment, they texted the group that no one's coming and the party is cancelled. Well, they had the party that day. Everyone went there. They just had decided they didn't want me there cause I was boring and not a fun person. So they told me that there was no party happening. It hurts a lot. It was a terrible day for me. Correction. They thought you were boring and not a fun person. It doesn't mean you are those things. When you try to open up and try to share a genuine conversation about something going on in your life and all they can do is crack jokes and try to get you to go out drinking with them. Made me realize how surface level many friendships really are. Then you have the opposite of that. 3 guys I've known since I was a freshman in high school. Been friends for over 15 years. have stayed in touch through all of us getting married, having kids, and moving to completely separate areas or the country. Yet whenever we're within an hour of each other we always make a point to get breakfast and catch up. This usually turns into 3+ hour conversations. This may only happen once or twice a year, but I consider those guys my best friends. That's real friendship and I'm fortunate to have them. When I got sober, 7 months today. When they ghosted me after 17 years of close friendship, I still have no idea what I did wrong. And for extra salt in the wound, it was right after I spent a week eating instant noodles because I donated every cent I had to one of them for her cancer treatment GoFundMe. Hurt more than any relationship breakup. They would invite each other to places in front of me and not include me in the slightest. When I ditched them they didn't know how to take it. LOL. LOL, they had taken you for granted. Often when these people, ones who were taken for granted, give them a taste of their own medicine they can't stand it. You know, hurt their ego and stuff. Like I suspect for a lot of people, getting divorced was a real eye-opener. I started with a core group of close friends who had all met in our late teens, early 20s, and one of them introduced me to the woman who I would ultimately marry. Well into our 40s they were what I considered to be my family, but when the divorce happened things spiraled. My best friend stuck with me, but his wife was the one who orchestrated things in our group and she was best friends with my ex. I was expecting the two of them to insulate for a while and I knew it was painful for my ex to be around me, so it was no surprise when I stopped getting invitations to cookouts etc. But then I noticed that the other members of the group were also avoiding ignoring me. I'd see on Facebook that one of them came into my town to go to a concert for a band that they knew I liked and hadn't so much as texted. Birthdays rolled around and nobody would call. When my parents both died within a few months of each other and not a one of them reached out, I knew where I stood. My best friend needs to get credit though. Alone from all of them, he made a consistent effort to stay in touch and see me regularly. He was there when my parents died and through everything else, even though his wife clearly disapproved. I think finally after this nonsense had been going on for several years he told her how ridiculous it all seemed and that entire friend group tried to reconcile. I made it clear right from the start that there was no guarantee that I'd ever find space for them in my life again. This is all very apropos right now because they are having their first big post-COVID party in a couple weeks and I'm invited. People are coming in from all over the country and the only one I give a crap about seeing is my buddy. I made the mistake of getting into a serious relationship with my best friend's girlfriend's best friend. Never again. When they abandoned me when I was going through a rough time. When I spent years listening and supporting them. When I have my first true moment where I am not coping and need support. They are nowhere to be seen and bitching behind my back. This is when I realized my high school friends never had grown up past high school. Luckily I had other friends. Just not a large girl group like that. But I can actually say that every friend I have, I know they have my back and won't judge me if I am not always happy. And the same for me. I have always had very high expectations of myself as a friend and I feel that everyone I call a friend is someone that brings something special to my life. That is worth more than having a huge group of bitchy girlfriends who turn on each other when they are out of the room. It took me a long time to realize it though. My best friend of 10 years called on my wedding day to say she couldn't make it because she was just so sad about her recent divorce. Turns out, she just had a date. Our whole friendship was fake. It just took me to that point to realize it. Bro, what a bee. When I realized literally just being in the same room as that person made me miserable. It's because the person was extremely self-conscious. To the point that they would overcompensate by putting others down every little chance they had to make themselves feel above. I kept wondering why they would keep throwing me under the bus for no reason, like we had been friends for years. Why would they treat me like this? It took me years to figure out exactly how bad of a friend they were, no matter how hard they pretend not to be. It took me an entire year of ghosting to stop being friends with that person, because they loved putting me down so much they wouldn't stop calling me, texting me, trying to contact me for a year with no responses because they could not understand how someone could possibly want to stop hanging out with them because they are so perfect. I know someone like that. He was an egomaniac who supposedly is never wrong. He abused the crap out of me. I cut him off my life and realized how miserable I was when I was with him. One friend at university tried to steal my animation coursework, claim it as his own and get me kicked out for stealing his work. However, I had help setting things up by one of my tutor's professors for me to film the coursework, so he instead got expelled and blacklisted from the university and any other university in the UK doing the same subject. The people running all the animation degrees in every university in the UK back then knew each other and talked to each other regularly as it a small community. I think there were less than half a dozen universities with animation degrees back then. This was 20-ish years ago now. My friends made a Facebook account for a fake girl who was transferring to our school and full on catfished me, only revealing it was a scam when I arrived at a movie theater to meet her. Was I dumb? Yes. Were they crappy? Undoubtedly. I've read a lot of crap here that they didn't care about me, they forgot me, and I ran out of C. But this right here is straight malicious intent. Those people are the freaking worst. For me, it was when I got in some deep trouble and they all just cast me aside without even giving it a second thought. I realized this when I invited all of them to go to the movies with me and they all said they couldn't go. I then found out through one of them that they went to see that movie the same day, and when I asked them why they didn't tell me they were going, they said, "We just wanted to go together." Crap broke my heart. I've been there, and it sucks. But it reminds me of the song Hurt Feelings by the Flight of the Conchords. I stopped smoking weed and they stopped coming round. This is a lesson that every smoker learns after a while. Some friends are only friends that you smoke with. A good rule of thumb is to do things together where you're not smoking. If that works, then you are probably real friends and not just together for smoking. This is a good post because it has the potential to help a lot of people. In college, I remember hanging out with a group of people like the ones on this thread. They were also my roommates for 3 years. Every year, we'd throw a fun party for everyone's birthday but mine. They didn't even know when mine was. After I graduated and looked back on it, I realized they were never my friends. I don't even hear from them anymore. I spent 4 years socializing with the wrong people, and if I had just hung out with the people that I had led to believe were nerds or annoying, or who I had more things in common with, I would likely have had a much more fun time in undergrad. Good thing I have much better friends than just the ones I made back then. For anyone who's quite young reading this, or just leaving college, don't confuse fake friends for people becoming adults. It's extremely normal for adults to lose touch with older, close friends due to life circumstances, children, distance, work, etc. That doesn't mean they're fake friends, it just means they have higher priorities than hanging out chatting than they used to. You'll often find those fake friends are happy to see you when either they or you make it easy convenient. That may be frustrating, but it's a normal part of growing up and likely something you'll do too. P.S. The post-college bit is the most jarring because everyone becomes an adult at a different pace. So people drop off, and if you're not ready yet, it can seem like people are dropping you as a friend. Just make it easy for them and you'll very likely pick things up right where they left off. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.